Good morning. Welcome to Village in Motion. My name is Susan Gerhard. Today is Tuesday, January 17th, 2017. A lot of 17s we have there. Today we're talking first with George Wallace. George is our director of Garden Ridge here at Green Spring. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Susan.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well also, but I understand some of your residents have not been doing so well, but they're doing much better now. Tell us about the excitement you've been dealing with at Garden Ridge.
They are doing much better now. We're very thankful for that. Let's see, to start off, about a week ago, I believe it was January 6th, we had a couple of cases of residents who were having symptoms of gastrointestinal illness, influenza-like illness. Some of the symptoms they were having were vomiting and diarrhea. And anytime you have folks, several cases like that occur in a short period of time, you realize very quickly that this is an illness that can spread very quickly. So, you know, in a area like Garden Ridge and a community like Green Spring, it's really important that we act very quickly to try to contain those folks that are ill so we can prevent the illness from spreading to other folks in the community.
And what do you do at that point?
So one of the first things we did was once we recognized this, several residents becoming ill on that particular Friday, we changed a little bit of the way we routinely operate. One of the first things we did was we posted signs at the entrance of Garden Ridge that was encouraging folks who were coming to visit not to visit during that time. One of the ways we can prevent the further spread is by having fewer people come into Garden Ridge where they're susceptible to becoming ill and coming in contact with residents who might be ill as well.
In other words, saying, until we know what's going on here, let's not spread it further.
Exactly, exactly. So one of the first steps we take, and that's a pretty standard approach with most licensed facilities like Garden Ridge, is to discourage any visitors from coming in. It's not it's not something we can demand or prevent people from coming to visit, but we can ask and we do request that while we have that type of illness going around, we do ask that folks please refrain from visiting to Garden Ridge. So that's a big step that we have to take, and it affects a lot of people. It affects a lot of family members. It affects a lot of our Green Spring community residents from our volunteer program, and it affects a lot of folks. But it is an important thing for their safety and for our resident safety.
So at that point, you asked not only family members but volunteers from here on the independent living side to say, hey, we appreciate your help, but please, until we get this under control, please don't come over.
Correct. That's always the best. One of the best things we can do to prevent the further spread of that type of illness by having fewer people coming into Garden Ridge.
Right.
A few of the other things that we did to take precautions as soon as we found out that there was some illness starting to go around was to change our cleaning products we were using, and we went to a bleach-based solution for cleaning, which is really important with certain types of gastrointestinal illnesses that are out there. Sometimes a bleach-based product is the only thing that effectively kills that virus.
So at this point, you had identified the virus.
We actually did not get laboratory results for the stool cultures that we took, I believe, for a couple days, but we took precaution from day one.
You weren't taking any chances.
Correct. We instituted a different chemical solution that we used for cleaning. We increased the frequency that our housekeepers were cleaning in common areas and resident rooms. We increased the frequency of taking the trash out. We also changed some of our dining procedures. Most of our cases occurred on Evergreen 2, which is our short-term rehab. And in that area where most of the cases we had were located on EV2, we actually temporarily suspended our common area dining room, where instead of having residents come to a common area to eat their meal, we actually serve the meals to the rooms for the residents on that particular neighborhood. And again, it's all in the effort of preventing and reducing the chance that this illness is going to spread among our residents and among our staff as well. So In addition to that, we also use disposable products for our dining times. So disposable plates, disposable utensils. And this is important not because we're concerned about cleaning the dishes. It's more about once a resident has used those utensils and plates, those are considered contaminated if someone is ill. And to avoid taking those contaminated utensils and dishes back out into common areas, back through the facility and down to the kitchen where they're cleaned, there's a lot of opportunity there where that illness can be spread from those things.
From other people touching them?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So again, as a precaution, we use disposables. That way, when a resident was finished with their meal in their room, they could be disposed of in the trash can in the room, and then that could be tied up and taken out by the housekeepers. So again, it was another precaution we took from the very onset of the illness, again, to prevent the further spread.
What different precautions did the staff members make? You were saying the housekeepers move throughout the building. Do they take different precautions as they move around the building?
Right. So with all of our staff, particularly when we know that there's an illness and it's on a particular area in the facility, we try to keep our staff members consistent to that area. So if we're able to staff and make adjustments in the assignments that whether it's housekeepers have or the assignments that the nurses or nursing assistants have, we try to keep those in a particular area so there's not again cross-contamination from one area of the facility to another. We also made some adjustments in our programming and our larger group activities. We actually reduced several of the larger group activities, again, in an effort to reduce the spread of the illness. Having large groups of folks come together from different areas of Garden Ridge, again, can be a real potential and real risk to spreading.
An opportunity for germs to spread.
Exactly. So I am happy to report today that I believe it's starting on January 6th and moving through to this past Friday, which was Friday the 13th. Every day we were communicating with our local health department, sending them a report of any new cases that we had, tracking our current cases, residents who had already exhibited signs and symptoms. And that's part of, again, our routine process as a licensed facility to communicate with our local health department. We were communicating with our corporate partners every day with updates and tracking of the illness. Again, our end goal was to resolve as quickly as we could and to keep it as isolated as we could.
So you started out with how many residents who were ill?
So the very first day, we had 8 cases that popped up like that.
8 cases like that. And the highest number of cases you had was?
11 resident cases.
You got it under control at 11.
Yes.
And wiped it out at that point.
Yeah, so once we instituted all of the precautions and measures that we take in an event like this where there's an outbreak of illness that can spread very rapidly, we instituted a lot of precautions. The staff worked really well together, and it was a very big team effort. We've been tracking that illness through last week. Our last signs and symptoms that we had, I believe, occurred last Tuesday. And in conjunction with the health department recommendation is once you're clear of all the signs and symptoms and there's no illness present, they expect 2 incubation periods to pass, which means an incubation period in this particular case was 48 hours. So the health department wanted to see a period of 96 hours consecutive that there were no residents showing signs or symptoms of illness. And once we hit that point, which was Friday, the health department cleared us that we had rid ourselves of this illness. The illness had run its course. And thankfully, again, in a great tribute to the staff, that it was resolved that quickly. I know for folks that, especially when you're ill, a week can seem like a very long time. For residents who are eating in their rooms, it can seem like a very long time to endure that. But in my experience and in other areas and other facilities, these outbreaks can be much larger and affect a lot more people.
I think the reward was well worth it.
Yes.
And I think that's a lesson for all of us. You know, we're number one, we're thankful on this side of the bridge that everything that you and your staff did prevented it from spreading over here. But it's a good lesson for all of us in terms of disease. Keep your germs at home. You know, if any of us are feeling ill in any way, avoid spreading it. And we've talked
Right.
about this before, that, you know, if you feel ill, don't spread it to others. Keep it to yourself. Keep it within your apartment. Take the right medical precautions to not spread it. And whatever precautions are being taken by the facility, whether it's our facility here or your facility, to respect those. And what you did worked.
Correct. And we had a lot of cooperation from a lot of people, from our independent living residents in Green Spring, from our family members and other visitors who did comply with our requests to not visit during that time. I believe, again, those folks that helped us there really contributed a lot in order to prevent that illness from spreading. And I just wanted to say again to the Garden Ridge staff, not just the nursing staff, but housekeepers, our therapists, our folks in our programming department, our dietary services, all those folks really had to make a real quick change in their normal routines. And any little slip up that they make in those precautions we put in place can really put folks at risk. And they just did a really wonderful job. Again, to resolve an illness like that in a 7-day period is very, very fast. I've seen these types of illnesses spread in
very
facilities
quickly.
much smaller than Garden Ridge for a much longer period of time. I mean, we're talking upwards of 30, 60 days and 30, 40, 50 residents being ill. So in this case, we were very fortunate, but I think, again, the big appreciation and thanks go to the staff for doing an excellent job.
So we're still in a very high, and neither you nor I are medical people, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I don't know about you, but we're still in a high risk cold, flu, virus kind of season, and we would remind all of you, wash your hands with soap and water frequently, watch what you're touching. You know, if you haven't had a flu shot, it's not too late to have one. You know, watch what you're doing this time of year so we don't spread cold and flu. Now, everything's open again at Garden Ridge. Volunteers should be returning.
Yes. So again, as of Friday, when we, in conjunction with our local health department, we resolved the outbreak that we had. As of Friday, we were clear of the signs and symptoms of the illness for 4 days.
Good.
And we are back to normal routine. We're back to our normal routine in terms of dining services, in terms of daily operations, and again, for visitors and families to be welcome to come and visit us.
That's great. Good deal. Excellent. We have one other bit of good news that George has to share with us today. Would you like to tell, or would you like for me to tell?
I'll be glad to share.
George has an announcement to make.
I had a little bit of personal excitement this past weekend, and just was sharing with Susan before the start of the show that I got engaged yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's good.
So my girlfriend Sarah and I engaged yesterday. Not quite sure when the wedding will be. We're hoping maybe sometime the end of 2017, maybe early 2018. But a very exciting time for me.
We're happy for you.
Engaged, yeah.
One of our couples that lives here in independent living just celebrated their 71st wedding anniversary. So we wish you at least that many years of happiness.
Thank you. God willing.
And we'll look forward to talking with you again soon.